Hey, what's up guys? John here. I'm in Medellin, Colombia, and I watched this video of Jerome Powell first thing in the morning.
For the general public, for those working families and people, why 2%? Why is getting it to 2% so important?
So that has become the globally agreed, essentially all major central banks target 2% inflation in one form or another.
How does that help my Nevada families? How does that help people in Nevada?
I'll tell you how it does. And it's I guess it's obviously not, it's not obvious how that is, but 2% inflation, to have people believe that inflation is going to go back to 2% really anchors inflation there, because, you know, the evidence is the modern belief is that people's expectations about inflation actually have an effect on inflation. If you expect inflation to go up 5%, then it will. You know, if everyone kind of expects that, because that's what businesses and households will be expecting, and it'll kind of happen because they expect it. So
it's going to show you what the future of the U.S. economy is actually going to look like. The policymakers, what's actually going on. So you saw him. He said that inflation is going to get to 2%, not because of some incredible policy decisions, not because of anything, except for consumers believing that it's 2%. Consumers believing that it's 2%. You know, when you go to Whole Foods, you go to ShopRite, or you go to any of these stores, and you buy a gallon of milk in 2018, it's $3, and now you go and it's $5.50. I don't think your mind's going to be able to change the fact that prices in many things, many household items, have more than doubled, or in some cases up 40, 50, 60% in the course of the last 3 years. I mean, that is dramatic. But if you look at some of the other policy decisions that are being made right now, and some of the other things that are happening in this economy, I think it's something that everyone needs to pay very close attention to, that nobody's really talking about. You know, a couple of these really, really big things that are concerning, to say the least. They're pushing Americans. They don't want Americans to work. You know, they're pushing this 4-day work week. They're pushing this entire concept of, you know, people deserve more for less. That's the concept. America was built on providing value. America was built by working hard and being that location, that place that presented opportunities. People came from all over the world and worked their tail off to be able to buy a house, put their kids through school. It wasn't a place where people just came to work 2 to 3 days a week. It wasn't a place where people just stayed home and got checks to stay safe. America was never that. But now that's what it's becoming. It's becoming this, you know, this little, I mean, I don't even want to say it. Like, it's becoming this this trap that people are trying to sell people to fall for it. This big trap of being fully dependent on the system, being fully, fully reliant on somebody else making decisions for you. And that's what's happening right now. When we look at the last 3 years, I think the last 3 years are going to be very revealing for what the next 3 years will look like. The last 3 years, remember, they said not to leave, stay home, work from home. You know, you deserve more money. You know, you should do you should find a better job, find a better gig. You should, they're really pitching this great resignation. They were trying to push employers to pay more. And they were pushing employers to pay more at a time when employers were making more money because there was so much cash in the system, knowing that that was not going to last. I mean, they would have to know that that money was never going to just stay in the system, especially with the policy decisions they enacted shortly thereafter. You know, what is it? Interest rate hikes in the last 15, 16 months. Every single meeting except for one. Every meeting except for one. They're rug pulling the entire banking system. SVB, Silicon Valley, Signature Bank, you had First Republic, you had Bank of California, you had all of these situations. You mean Credit Suisse acquired a bank, like you had all of these situations that unfolded shortly thereafter. So you think about it. They printed so much money. Now they're devaluing the currency to a point to where, you know, consumers are going to have no choice but to go back to that mindset of staying home and getting checks, getting handouts. Now people say, John, you know, you're being dramatic. Look, they have 42 different UBI programs all throughout America. 42. Like, it's in basically every single city in America. So this was not happening in 2018, 2019. It wasn't. Many people say, John, there was pilot programs in, you know, there'll be someone in the comments saying, in 1979, they did a pilot program in Canada. Okay, maybe they did like 1 or 2. Now it's basically in every big city in America. They're pushing this concept. And what I think people don't realize is that the direction that we're actually heading in, this belief that the system's going to take care of everyone, that everything is going to be fine, we're going back to 2% inflation, that the world's going to get, easier. No, the world's going to get a hell of a lot harder. And, on this channel, I've been talking about it. I've been talking about real estate because I basically started my career in real estate. But, I also started in a different place than a lot of other people. I didn't start with any handouts, and I learned some really hard lessons as a kid about relying on somebody else to take care of you. And so when you go through hard things when you're younger, it forms you to be a little bit more cautious and to really look at risk a little differently. And now what I'm seeing right now is a really, really big situation where there's a lot of risk being dependent on another entity. And that's what they're pushing right now, this massive, massive dependence that's going to be happening in the US economy. And they're distracting everyone with every single story. Every day there's a new story about something. And it's kind of it's almost too much. Like every day there's one big disaster. Every day there's one big situation at a bank. Every day there's some drama. These protests that are happening all over the world. But if you look at what's actually happening, it's all one big distraction. Because as this unfolds, every single distraction, people start getting their attention span starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, like TikTok, right? People have TikTok brain because people are just swiping, and they forgot what the last 5 swipes, they just forgot. It's just like a mechanism of just continuing to scroll. Same exact thing is happening right now with the media. Same exact thing is happening right now in America and worldwide. Is all of these things, people are getting bombarded with all of this information, yet at the same time telling people that it's okay to, you be more entitled, to deserve more, to work less. Look, I understand the world's more expensive. I understand that. And I understand people need a salary and people need a place to live. And I'm not saying that they don't. But what I am simply saying is that what is that ultimately happening is they set up employees for failure. They set up business owners for failure. And they're doing everything that would result in a net loss for both business owners and employees. And if you think Big Bro or anyone else is going to come out there and save the day, I got news for you. That doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. So when I've been talking about, there's going to be a big recession, a big crash, it's because you look at 2008, right? Look at 2000, look at stock crash in the 80s. You start to connect those crashes. Those things were nothing. They were nothing compared to the chain of events and the chain of problems that we're dealing with right now. I mean, they're looking basically at reconstruction. Think about this for a second. They want to reconstruct the entire energy system, basically all throughout Europe and all throughout America, the entire energy system at the same exact time when consumers have more debt today than ever before. Credit card debt over $1 trillion, student loans 1.7 trillion, auto loans 1.6 trillion. I mean, you start to add all this stuff up, and then you realize that most people got these loans at relatively low interest rates, and they're continuing to jack up interest rates, knowing that consumers are not going to be able to afford it on the back of record high inflation. And so what's ultimately going to happen, right? You're going to start seeing more and more and more defaults. So it's not just going to be commercial real estate that's going to be a problem. It's the overall consumer. The consumer is in very, very big trouble, more trouble today than ever before. That's why when people say, John, it's not going to be 2008. You're right, it's going to be a hell of a lot worse. 2008 was basically just a very, very, very big mortgage problem. It was a mania in housing. What we're witnessing is a reconstruction of everything that we know. That's what we're witnessing. And so, when we're looking at Jerome Powell saying, we're going to 2% inflation, how? Really, how? They're pulling money out of the system, sure. They're increasing interest rates, sure. But at the same exact time, the cost of energy is skyrocketed. And it's going to continue to rise because we're going to be moving off of fossil fuels and going to clean energy, right? And so if that is going to happen, the big question, if it's going to cost more for ships and trucks and planes to distribute this t-shirt, this microphone, everything is just going to get more and more and more expensive for them, who are they going to pass the cost on to? It's going to be me. It's going to be you. It's going to be your family, my family. That's what's going to happen. So when they say 2% inflation, I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. I think inflation has only just begun. This problem has only just begun. And another thing I'd even mention is the dollar. Look at all these de-dollarizations that are occurring right now, one country after the next through BRICS. You have all these dozens and dozens and dozens of nations all throughout the world that are pushing away from being on the dollar. So you start to add all this stuff up. How can one say, you're being dramatic or you're being a crash bro? It's like, no, it's a facts, bro. Like, you look at the facts are the facts, right? And when I've been saying like this is gonna be the greatest wealth transfer of all time, I mean it. Like, this is gonna be the greatest wealth transfer of all time. Somebody prove me wrong. How is this not going to be? Like, this is what I think is gonna happen. The next couple of years, people that make smart decisions, that are making decisions based on facts, these people are gonna make a lot of money, and they're gonna be able to provide themselves a lot more opportunity. But people that think that inflation is gonna go down to 2%, Big Bro is going to write fat checks every month. People are going to be able to travel and really live a great life and save money and do all these things just by staying home, working 3-4 days a week. I have newsflash for you. I mean, all that's going to happen is your dream's going to get crashed. And another thing is, I didn't even mention AI, tech, robotics, all these things. You have all of these things that are happening: debt, tech, like de-dollarizations. You have all these things that are unfolding at the same exact time. At the same time, Americans in very, very, very big trouble. Very big trouble. But that's why I've been talking about this. That's why I think that some of the wealthiest investors in America, what are they all doing? Sitting on mountains and mountains of cash for a reason, because they know that they're about to capitalize in a massive way and trade in their eroding dollars for hard real assets. That's what's going to happen. Curious, what do you think? Do you think that's going to happen, or do you think that we are going to, have a soft landing like Jerome Powell saying with 2% inflation? I don't see it. Curious what you see. Drop below. Let's have a conversation about it. And if you want to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. Go there, book a free strategy session. Catch you guys in the next video.